Hogwarts Legacy. Oh no. Hello, welcome. I'm Noah Price, your Christian gamer. I love RPGs, JRPGs, and today we're going to be talking about Hogwarts Legacy. It's the new open world video game that is in the setting of Harry Potter franchise. I've played at least 10 hours of this game. That's kind of what you probably figured from the name of the title of this video. If you're somebody who knows my channel, I like doing big reviews of video games. Sometimes they're about hour long, and in Pokemon Violet's case, it's 2.5 hours long. So it takes a long time to put out those videos. So while it's hot and this game is just out and I just started playing this game, let me talk about it and give you a little hint at kind of my thoughts on this game so far, specifically as a Christian. Context though wise, what do I know of this game going in? As somebody who has only watched the movies of the Harry Potter, it's hard to say that I'm a fan. There are some problems with it. To be honest, I didn't like the magic system. I don't think it was played with enough. I think it could have been fun seeing the weird, wacky spells, but the world and the atmosphere the movies provided, I really enjoyed and don't hate the series for it. But that's about it that I know of this stuff. I don't know anything about the books, and I don't know a lot about the lore. Also, if you've seen my other videos, I will almost every single time tell you, hey, I'm going into this blind because I actually like playing games blind. I think it's better to get the intended experience that the creators of the game want. There are a few things I know. I know that this game is taking place in the 1800s, which is way before the actual movies, which is great. I think this is a good call. I think it's a good response, and especially as we start playing the game, I'll expound upon why. So let's get into the game. First thing you have to say almost always is the tutorial. How is the tutorial in this game? A lot of times RPGs, tutorials can be very slow and really sluggish, and it kind of is here. It really takes this time to start going. Now, it doesn't take its time with the story. It leads off of the story, as do most RPGs, which is probably good. It especially starts off with leading in on that mystery. This series, from what little I know, is heavily on that mystery value of kids figuring out what's truly going on. And featuring it here heavily right off the bat of like, what is this mystery? I think it's great for bringing intrigue and kind of setting up the story. While this intro cutscene was very enticing with there being a dragon, of course I'm going to be paying attention if there's a dragon involved. Honestly, the whole time we were kind of going through this little mystery time, learning the mechanics of the tutorials of running, little basic pew-pews, and heavily on, hey, what is this artifact? Let's solve these puzzles. That whole little excursion of adventure that we had at the beginning for basically what is to some considered the tutorial, I kind of the whole time was just wanting to be in Hogwarts. I honestly wish they had just dropped us off in Hogwarts right off the bat. Started off with the Hogwarts, give us the experience, buy us in already with that, what we want, and then start building the story slowly. I would have greatly enjoyed that, because, you know, why are people playing this game? Well, I don't think they're first off going in for the story that we don't know about. I think it's for, well, the Hogwarts experience. But let's talk a little bit more about the tutorial and what I was kind of referring to it. While I did do quotations for tutorial, I don't think this little intro before Hogwarts is the tutorial. It felt like all the way up, even up to the 10 hours that I played, was the tutorial. Now, it's kind of hard to have games and how to put in the tutorial function. Do you do a lot? Do you do a little? Are you really hands-on or hands-off? This game chose a little bit more on the hands-on situation, where while yes, they do a great job at not just shoving everything at you, all the different mechanics right off the bat, it slowly introduces it to you, especially since it's an open world game that's expected to be at least 60 hours. I'm thinking it's gonna be more around 100 possibly. With that atmosphere and that length of a game and having a bunch of different mechanics, sure, you want to space it out. And so it really felt like this 10 hours was all tutorial. And the reason why I do this series called After 10 Hours is the idea is ideally after roughly 10 hours, you should be outside of the tutorial, and at about 10 hours, you should be start being introduced and experiencing the normal cycle that the game kind of wants, the loop that the game introduces that you're expected to play throughout the rest of the game. So that's why I kind of like doing roughly 10 hours. Usually it's more 15 hours. But even here, with the amount of time spent on it, it felt like we just barely kind of like got to see a little bit of that loop. But mostly, this game was just cluttered with a lot of tutorials. Now, not all the tutorials were handholdy as hard as it was in the beginning of the game of, hey, do this. But a lot of the moments of the game did feel like, okay, we're still in tutorial world. We're not actually playing the game quite yet, which honestly doesn't feel too great. Besides the tutorial, let's start talking about the story that was introduced so far in this game. Well, it has to do with adding in a new element that we haven't really seen in the movies, and it's an element that makes sense.
Ancient magic.
Sure, something like this could ideally exist, and it doesn't seem too contrived and like, oh, you just made this up. Like, okay, no, that works, and it makes sense that this could exist in this world. The other thing is, our character is kind of like protagonist, where it was like, oh yes, we are almost the chosen hero of, ooh, we're the only ones who could see this ancient magic. Stuff like that feels weird. I kind of wish it was more open to where video games made the hero be less of the like, oh, it's the chosen hero. If anything, I wish it was like, no, we're like one out of everybody. We're just a normal kid, just like everyone else. But then we slowly make the actions and choose to become the hero. I like that plot line better than just like, ah, yes, but you are different than everyone else. But the story was still good, and I think they did a great job, at least so far from what little of the story I know, because again, it's a mystery, so obviously I barely know anything. With the little hints they've introduced, they already set up a bad guy. I don't know if he's going to be the true bad guy, but at least there's at least a bad guy that's introduced, somebody to look out for. And it's interesting how open this story is so far. I say this I know another thing that I was actually spoiled about going into this game is knowing that you can choose the dark arts and kind of go down the evil path. And with that, it's kind of funny because early on in the tutorial, there's a little scene where you're with Professor Fig, who's kind of your comrade in this story element of learning what is going on with this ancient magic and the bad guys and that whole connection there. And there's one thing specifically that Professor Fig says, and it's that ancient magic isn't necessarily evil, it's more the person who's wielding the magic. It's really up to them. I like that. I think it keeps the story really open, and it really fits with your character progression in which side you choose to choose. While it's interesting, I don't care about it, honestly. I'm still here just for the Hogwarts experience, not for this story. Speaking of Hogwarts, what do you do in Hogwarts? Well, you get to take some classes. Classes are great. We've only taken 5 classes. We took the Defense Against the Dark Arts, we got Charms, we got Herbology, we got Potion Making, and then last one that I got to take was Flight class. So these were the classes we take, and every single one of them was very tutorialized. It was very much like, here's the beginning class. Now, because I only have taken those 5 classes and only have played about 10 hours worth of this game, including side quests, so that's why it's not all just main story, I don't know if we take more classes. Well, I do know we take at least one more. It has to do with animals and whatnot, which is excited. I wanted to take that class to see what they did. Sadly, didn't get there. But one thing I am curious about is, do we go back and do the basically second time of this class? Or is it just like, oh, we do all the intro level classes, you get to have your own little movie moment scene, and then, all right, there's the action, the story's happening, so now you have to leave Hogwarts and take care of that. I hope that is not the case, and I hope we do more story stuff in classes, because I really enjoyed the classes that were introduced and we had involved. I loved the teachers and interacting with them, and even though a lot of them were short, you do get the movie experience, you get that movie moment, and I really enjoyed it. It's what I'm wanting from this game. And talking about these classes, what's connected to them is characters. We have to talk about the characters because this is a character focused game, less more than the mechanic side, and I love it. It's what I want. And we got characters like the professors. The professors are, while a lot of them are new and different, what we do get, because this is a older game, they can't lean too heavily on nostalgia with specific characters that you might love, because they're not born yet, obviously. But what they can use is lineage, which is kind of interesting. Like, you have the Black family, which is actually in this game right now is the headmaster. We also get the Weasleys. The Weasleys actually has not only a professor is a Weasley, but also there's actually a student that you can get into shenanigans with, which kind of checks out for a Weasley family. Not just the characters that are kind of linked to characters we may know are great. We have a bunch of different kind of students that are varying in different kind of moods and attitudes. It's like, hey, this kid was bullied and lost her marbles. How about you go help her find her marbles? Like, low stakes challenges and side quests are great to have for making this world, this atmosphere believable. Just hanging out with a bunch of other kids and their students, and they're constantly talking about classes, they're talking about other stuff, and you're helping with them. And there is rivalry between the houses. While it's not the same setting, so it's not quite the same level, there's still some kind of rivalry of like, you're one of them, all right, let's see which house does better. This little competition between student to student is great, and I really enjoyed every kid I've actually introduced and got to have a little time with. These introductions and their movie moment scenes, not only are they great, but I do actually like the little moments they give for you to interact with a kid. Every single time there's a student you can interact with and start growing your relationship with. Now, there's not like a persona confident system going on, but getting just to talk with a different student and getting to learn about their wants and their feelings just throughout the quest is great. Probably one of my favorites was in the flight class, getting to hang out with one of the students there and just basically going off on your own a little bit and learning how to really fly. Stuff like that is great, and I really enjoyed these interactions, and this is the experience and atmosphere I was wanting from this game. There's another thing I was wanting from this game though, and that has to be spells. I kind of mentioned it, but my little gripe with the series that I know of Harry Potter with the movies is that it tended to be a lot of pew pew when it came to the magic system. It wasn't the focus in the movies. Which is fine, but once they kind of said, hey, we're gonna make a video game, I was excited because I feel like this is the best time and the best kind of genre to actually emphasize the magic system. Having a bunch of weird spells is very video gamey, so it just checked out, and I was like, yes, this will definitely work. There's two types of magic in this game. There's utility and combat. There's spells like Revelio, which is the Sixth Sense video game sense, which I'm glad it's in this game. It makes sense why it would be connected to a spell. Love it. I love when games give the Sixth Sense, but they made it actually make sense, not just be like, oh, you can see through the wall with X-ray vision for some reason. It's like, okay, that's weird, but okay. So you have spells like that are obviously for utility usage of going around the place, finding objects, lighting up the room, utility stuff that would make sense that you would use. And then the second one is the one I was most curious about, is the combat related spells. And I wasn't disappointed with this game so far. Now, it was very much different than what I was expecting. See, again, I was hoping for weird magic spells to happen, but what we got here instead was a weird combo system. Now, you have spells like Protego, where it lets you protect yourself and even parry. It gives you a little parry system. But the main focus of this game and its combat is actually either levitating a enemy or bringing them to you, and then pew 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 combo them and juggle your opponent for as long as you can. Was not expecting this at the combat at all. And the difficulty wise, because I was playing this on the hardest difficulty, it did get hard once you got a bunch of different enemies to deal with at the same time. The other difficulty is that sometimes the enemies will have shields, so you have to use a specific spell to break the shield, and then you start comboing them. Now, somebody who enjoys maybe Skyrim or even just D&D in general, I love having variety in my spells. So I'm a little disappointed that that's not quite here in this gameplay. I'm still enjoying it. Not what I was expecting, but still enjoyable. We'll see how it is once we get way farther along in the game. Maybe it actually does get more varied, or at least add some stuff, but also it might not. And I'm afraid that it might get a little bit too monotonous and too boring. This game is open world. So let's talk about how open world it is. I honestly did not want to explore this world. Hogwarts I wanted to explore. This world I did not until I got my broom, which wasn't till like kind of late towards the 10 hours mark, just because of doing different spells and different quests, even doing some side quests, and then it was a specific side quest in order to actually get a broom. I didn't hate this, but it did take a while until I got my broom, and that's fine. Before going outside and walking around, it was fine, but really I just wanted to explore Hogwarts. Hogwarts is a pretty big place, and they filled it to the brim with a bunch of different stuff to do, and I actually really enjoyed that. Obviously, with my PC being low specs and why you're seeing a lot of footage being so glitchy, it took a long time to transverse Hogwarts because of loading screen. Now, not saying outside of the world is boring, going to Hogsmeades and even place outside of that is nice to do, and it adds more life to this game than just student life. Probably the biggest thing that helped with these places outside of Hogwarts actually kind of mattered to me was its side quests. Luckily, there is a bunch of side quests you could do, and they're not all just fetch quests. They're actually kind of varied a little bit. One of them probably was my favorite, is a side quest that had you going to Azkaban. Pronounced that wrong, but we actually got to go there. I don't think we ever see this place and what it looks like in the movies, at least. And so actually getting to go here by side quest was crazy. Really enjoyed it, and I thought it was great. But again, that little limiter of not having the broom made it not fun. But once we got the broom, man, I actually wanted to go places. It gave me not quite the same level of enjoyment, but close to the new Spider-Man game and how it feels to just swing around the world. It's one of those where it's like, yeah, I could fast travel and that would be quicker, but I enjoy moving through the game like this as this character. Now, there's some flaws to the flight mechanics which do impact the enjoyment of maneuvering in this open world, and that's you can't fly in towns or cities. Even Hogwarts has some problems with it. You can't land inside, so you have to land outside of different towns in order to walk in it, which is fine. It's not the biggest gripe in the world, and in order to fly, you have to walk out of the town or run and then start flying. Not too much of a big deal, but in Hogwarts, I was hoping to use it to transverse Hogwarts a little bit more. You know, fly up really quickly to a different up high building and then go inside. But sadly, there's only a few openings and entryways, and so you have to specifically use those. And sometimes it's hard to get off your broom. The broom's like, you can't get off because you're not supposed to get off here. It's like, but I've got it off here before. Stop it. So stuff like that has made it a little bit of a pain, at least maneuvering through Hogwarts. I was hoping it would be great to maneuver around there. It's nice to fly around and see how it looks. But a big problem that I did run into also with flying was flying in kind of the open world. While it's enjoyable, it works, it's great. Once you land down, trying to fly back up sometimes just doesn't work. Depending on where you're at, you might be too close to a area that's like a specific area. Stuff like that made it a little bit of a bummer because it's like, oh no, I want to fly everywhere if I'm here. I don't want to have to worry about flipping over and taking forever to get through a load screen. No, I want to fly around. It's fun and it's enjoyable. So those are some of my problems with the flying. It's still good. It's still enjoyable, but those were some of the problems I ran into. Now, what are you flying to in this open world game? Well, I mentioned before side quests. There's a bunch of different side quests you can do, and each town has its own little side quests that you could do. And then even Hogwarts has students that are wanting you to complete side quests for them. So there's a bunch of that you could do, which can be varied, as mentioned before. But the other thing is there's different puzzles you could do in the world. One of them is Marlin's puzzle. Marlin has left behind a lot of puzzles, and if you complete them, you actually slowly build up your inventory, which is important. We'll get into why, but doing these puzzles are fine. They're very much like Breath of the Wild style of like very simple little things that are like, quick little solved puzzles, which is fine. Don't need anything too complicated, and it's a good enough reward that it's not too much of a waste of time whether you do choose to do it or don't. Besides that, there's not really too much that this open world has at this moment for us to actually take advantage of. Like, there's animals that you could find and kind of like, write down, hey, there's this animal. But so far, since we haven't unlocked the animal class, we can't really take advantage of that too much. And so it's a little bit weird intro tutorial still feel, even at this point, to where it's like, yeah, I want to go explore the world, but at this point, you're still so limited that it's like, yeah, it's not really worth it. Another thing I should talk about, similar to why you want to do the Marlin's quest and why it opens up your inventory and why inventory matters, is in this game, there's actually different clothing you can wear in the game, which are not just there for aesthetics. They actually have a defense number to you. They either have defense or even can help your combat, and this little flexibility of little RPG mechanic wise, it's weird. I almost kind of wish it wasn't here, which is weird. I'm usually somebody in an RPG, I love when I get to see numbers of equipment, and equipment actually matters what you put on. But in this game, it feels weird because all it turns into is just wear the highest gear, and then what you can do is cosmetically you can make it look like a different gear. And the reason why you want inventory is because you can only hold so much. It does look like there's going to be later on a way to upgrade this gear and put other things like little stones in it to actually make the gear work in a way you want. But for right now, in the beginning, it very much just turned into, hey, just put on the best gear and then cosmetically look like how you want to look. I'm glad they made it like that, where you get to change how it looks how you want. I think if they didn't, that would have sucked a lot. But having this customization with your armor and your gear is great, and it leads into another thing of the customization in this game. Create your own experience, your own character, with having your own wand, with having your own broom. I think they did a great job with allowing players to have more of their unique experience so that they look different from each other, which is what I want from a role-playing game. I want to have my options so I can look different and have my unique experience. Don't know how much we're going to get of that for the story. I'm hoping. I mean, I do know that, again, as mentioned, you can kind of go down the dark arts, and so at least it seems like there might be at least 2 endings. I hope there is. I hope there's a lot of endings. Probably not. Probably at the most 2. But I do hope there's a lot of choices that we can make that actually impact the story. Because while mentioning in the side quests, there are a lot of side quests, and in a lot of them, we do have dialogue choices, which is great and cool. I don't know how much they actually matter. So we'll have to see. All in all, Hogwarts Legacy lands on the feels for this game. This game feels like you're in the Harry Potter game, like Harry Potter franchise, the setting, from just the visuals with being in Hogwarts and everything being referenced. Not only getting to see those things, but also the sound cue and the sound designs are of the Harry Potter franchise in the movies. And so for me, specifically knowing those motifs, hearing them constantly, I'm like, yeah, I love that. Not only that, even some of the quest lines of going from high stakes with the story to low stakes with just student to student, a lot of that involving shenanigans, being a kid and being able to just sneak into the library and having that be in quest line, that just was perfect. I was like, yep, okay, this is the Harry Potter experience. Like, no matter how good the mechanics are, they're not amazing, but the biggest thing holding this game up is the connection to Harry Potter. And so getting this correct means so much. It holds so much value to this game. And I think a biggest thing that kind of like elevates this is the level up system. You don't level up from combat like a normal RPG. No, you level up from exploring. This game wants you to explore, and I think that fits way better in a Harry Potter game than any other RPG. Going around Hogwarts, using Revelio to see different lore aspects of the game and finding different pages, and this being much more of a focus, I think it works so well. Now, for the actual leveling up you do, sure, that's more typical RPG with more movement, more spells, stuff like that. Sure, that's more RPG. Glad it's there. Love it. I've enjoyed the level up system, but yeah, no, the actual leveling up by exploring, I think was a great choice. So these are my thoughts of Hogwarts Legacy after about 10 hours or so, probably closer to 12, 13. Let me know what you think down below if you're enjoying this game, and probably most importantly, if you want to see me actually making these choices, whether like, what house did I pick, or what quest lines do I do, what spells do I learn, what talent system. If you want to actually watch me play through that and get my full experience of this game, well, subscribe down below and look out for my upcoming big review of this game. It'll actually be linked here in the end screen right now, but it's not out right now, so be tuned. But that's it for today. I'm Noah Price, the Christian Gamer. Jesus loves you. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye.